Decision Day is Monday. Most polls show a virtual tie between the Liberals and the Conservatives. Does Polly, the artificial intelligence algorithm, have a more definitive view of what's to come? Let's find out. Erin Kelly is CEO of Advanced Symbolics, Inc., and as she's done throughout this federal campaign, she's here to tell us what Polly is picking up as the race comes to a close. You have no idea how many people this week have come up to me and said, "What's Polly saying? What's Polly saying?" The election is 3 days away. 3 days is actually a long time in politics. So let me just ask, if the election were to happen today, what would happen? You're wearing red for a reason.
Yes.
You're wearing red for a reason.
Yes, I chose these colors on purpose because what Polly is telling us is that it's going to be a Liberal government.
A Liberal minority government?
A Liberal minority government.
What percentage does it put on that?
She's 77% confident. The probability is 77% that it'll be a Liberal minority government, and about 5% chance of it being a Liberal majority government.
5%, that's still out there, eh?
Yeah, it's still out there.
Does that mean you are ready to conclusively call this election?
Well, it's interesting, right? 77%, it's strong. It's not as strong as we'd like to see it. It's not as strong as it was at this point in 2015, where we were able to call the election a month ahead of time. The electorate is much less decided this time round.
So something theoretically could happen in the next few days to perhaps upset that percentage a bit.
Yes, absolutely. We are still seeing a number of ridings across the country, in Ontario, Quebec in particular, where people are undecided.
They're still in play, even at this late stage.
Yep, they're still in play.
Fascinating. The party leaders. Will every party leader win his or her seat?
Yes.
Including.
Well,
yeah,
right, I'm thinking of the top.
you're doing yes, but. Okay,
right.
So Trudeau wins in Quebec.
Yes.
Singh wins in BC. Scheer wins in Saskatchewan. May wins in BC. The Bloc leader wins his seat in Quebec.
Yeah.
Maxime Bernier.
We're not sure about Maxime Bernier. So he's one of the ones that he's very close.
Last I saw in your polling, he's like 3 or 4 points back still.
Yeah.
How much is having a second right-wing party, the People's Party, in all ridings in this country affecting the Conservatives' chances to win?
It's not affecting their chances at all. In fact, the NDP are hurting them more than Maxime Bernier.
Really?
Yes.
Explain that to me.
Well, in some ridings where first of all, Mr. Singh has become much more popular. He is taking votes away from the two leading parties. So he's having much more of an influence on this election than Maxime Bernier is.
That's interesting. So he's not only, obviously he's taken progressive votes away from the Liberal Party, but you're saying he's also sort of taken some votes away from the Conservatives as well.
What's really hurting Andrew Scheer in this particular election is his lack of a climate change policy. And so people like the fact that the NDP are seen to be strong on that. The Liberals are kind of waffling on that a little bit, and we can talk about that a little bit later. It's more hurting the Liberals, obviously, because they're taking votes away from Liberals. But in some ridings, it is hurting the Conservatives.
We are TVO, so we're going to take a look at O, as in Ontario right now. You got this map? Sheldon, you want to bring this graphic up here? Here we go. Okay, you want to take us through this? The Liberals came into this election campaign in the previous Parliament with 80 seats. 80 seats in the province of Ontario. My quick calculation, looking at all the balls in that picture, and we should just describe it in a little more detail for those listening on podcast. There are not 80 red balls in that picture, so they're going to go down a bit, eh?
Yes.
What are you seeing for the province of Ontario?
So what's interesting here, so the solid balls are ones where people are decided and Polly is confident. What's interesting here is the high ratio of undecideds. So still, 3 days out, you've got there at the bottom of the graph a considerable number of ridings that are still
more than 20.
in contention. Yeah.
More than 20 ridings still undecided in the province.
And that's why she's at 77% confidence. That's why we can't say it's 85% confident.
I do feel obliged to point this out, that in the last national election in the United States, you know, all those trackers were saying that Hillary Clinton had an 80% chance of winning the election, and she did not. At 80. You've got the Liberals at 77.
Right.
Which my math shows is less than 80. So you can't, like, this ain't over, I presume.
No, it's not, and that's why we're at 77%. You know, there's still that opportunity for the Conservatives to come back. You know, to also win a minority, so they still have an opportunity. The difference between sort of the Hillary and this was that we're counting each individual seat. So we're seeing at the popular vote level, the Liberals and the Conservatives are actually tied nationally. But it's when you get down to the seats that it starts to get interesting, that you see the divide here because of our system.
How those total votes translate riding by riding by, it's not actually one election, it's 338 elections.
Yeah, that's it.
So how that popular vote translates into seat by seat by seat by seat, obviously that's what matters here. The closest races in the province of Ontario, what do you want to bring to our attention?
Catherine McKenna, so she has really been hurt. So she's a Liberal, the Environment Minister in Ottawa Centre. Mm-hmm. So Ottawa Centre traditionally is a left-leaning riding. They often go NDP. She actually stole that riding from Paul Dewar back in the last election. But she's a cabinet minister and a high-profile one. So coming into the election, she was a strong, there have been critics, but she was favored to win the seat. Now Polly only has her 3 points ahead of the NDP in that riding. So, and that's really because of the popularity of the NDP and how well Jagmeet Singh has done in this election, that it's bringing that possibility back to Ottawa Centre.
There is a cabinet minister 40 minutes from here in Burlington riding, Corinna Gould, Minister of Democratic Institutions. Yes. What are you seeing there?
She is in a tight race as well. So Corinna Gould is interesting because she was the youngest cabinet minister ever, and so she's got profile. But again, Burlington wants to be a conservative riding, I think, and she is a Liberal, but she's a cabinet minister. So that's what makes this interesting, that she might lose her seat. It's always interesting when a cabinet minister comes close to losing their seat.
I checked your numbers. Dead heat right there now, right?
Yes.
Dead heat.
It is, yeah. Too close to call.
Advance polls. What have you seen? I presume you do some surveying of advance polling as well?
We did, yes.
What can you tell us?
So this is really interesting. So typically in an advance poll, you would see conservative voters coming out because conservatives, they have this advantage that their base votes. You can always count on the Conservatives to vote. It's like a moral duty for Conservatives. So normally we see, because they've made up their mind early, they usually come out to the advance polls. We did not see that this time. It's interesting. So what we do is we look at what Polly projects the vote to be for a particular party, and then are they overrepresented in the advance polls? And in this particular case, we saw that the Liberals were overrepresented in the advance polls and the Greens were underrepresented. So that might be an indication, we don't know, but it might be an indication. I think with the Liberals, it could be explained by the fact that we also saw a demographic that was more likely to vote in the advance polls, urban professionals, people 25 to 35 with young kids, so I want to get this over with, because on Monday I'll be driving to the daycare, going to work, so choosing to go to the advance polls. So that could explain why the Liberals were overrepresented in that group. But the Greens also, you would think, are appealing to that demographic, right? Urban voters, people with children worried about climate change. And we saw the Greens underrepresented this weekend at the advance polls.
Interesting. The two highest profile independent candidates, Jane Philpott in Ontario, Jody Wilson-Raybould in British Columbia. Polly giving any indication how those two ridings are going to turn out?
They are, like the other ones that we discussed tonight, neck and neck, those two. Jane Philpott more seriously in trouble. Jody Wilson-Raybould fighting for her seat.
Close.
Yes.
So she's still got a shot.
Yeah.
Okay. The Bloc in Quebec, if Justin Trudeau doesn't win a majority government, you say there's only a 7% chance of him doing so, it will be in large measure because he's lost his dominant position in the province of Quebec. The Bloc surged almost out of nowhere. Does Polly have any sense about how and why that happened?
She does. It's really interesting because when you read a lot of the media reports, it says that because of Blanchette's charisma and he's well-spoken. That's not what Polly is seeing. Polly is seeing a lot of dialogue in Quebec right now about the pipelines. So you have to understand, in Quebec, they're very proud of their clean energy. You know, the hydroelectric power that powers homes and hopefully someday cars for the Quebec government. And when Blanchette said, we don't want your dirty pipeline in our province, and that's what he is campaigning on. And he's saying to Quebecers, why would we want Alberta oil when we have clean energy? And why wouldn't the government take our clean energy and export that? They're already exporting it to the US. Why wouldn't they export it to other areas in Canada rather than promoting Alberta? And he's saying that Mr. Trudeau is inconsistent. He doesn't have a consistent vision on climate change, which is very important in Quebec.
Well, he bought a pipeline.
Right, he bought a pipeline. He might have brought in a carbon tax, which Quebecers don't mind because they don't use up as much carbon as other people in the country. But he also not only did he buy a pipeline, but he wants to run it through Quebec. And so that is what is causing that consternation. And what's ironic here is that Mr. Trudeau presumably bought the pipeline to please Alberta, and he's maybe going to get one seat in Alberta.
Or maybe none.
Or maybe none. So from a strategic point of view, buying the pipeline is costing him seats in Quebec and not gaining him anything in Alberta. So if, from a strategy point of view, it was a very poor strategy.
Everybody's been saying this has been a dirty campaign in so many different ways. What does, and we should, I guess, say parenthetically here, you're not polling 1,000 people overnight, right? You're polling 277,000 people all the time.
Yes.
What kind of engagement are you picking up on to suggest how people feel about the kind of nastiness of this campaign?
The engagement is high. So we got 4 times as many people participating in discussions about this election than we saw in 2015. And usually that's a good sign that people are going to turn out at the polls. The corollary, the converse of that, or the inverse of that, is that the people have been much more negative than in the past election. So often when people are feeling negative or undecided, they might choose to stay home. So it'll be very interesting for us to see, Polly will be learning from this, how you balance that high engagement versus negativity. But for sure, we are seeing people are very, very negative this time around.
I've been struck by the lack of volatility in the frankly, among all of the parties. All of the predictions that the Greens were going to supplant the NDP as the party to watch, that didn't happen. The Conservatives, rather, under Stephen Harper, ended up that last campaign 4 years ago at 32. That's basically where they are today. Mm-hmm. Why has there been so little voter volatility?
Well, in this particular election, what's interesting is this election has actually been less about the brands, about the leaders themselves, and more about policy. We actually see, when we see the conversations, it's people talking about policies, which is really interesting. People always think that's not what people talk about.
That's
they go
encouraging.
for it is encouraging, yes. People are, when the media say, well, Blanchette presents well, it's the pipelines. When people talk about Andrew Scheer, I mean, he doesn't have a very good brand, but it's also that his lack of a platform really hurt him. Releasing it on the holiday weekend got a lot of negativity. That wasn't well received because it made people think, well, what's he hiding? Why isn't he saying what he's going to do? And when people say it's like Doug Ford, that gets people scared because they want to see people were really interested in the platforms this time around and the policies. So in the past, where it might have been okay not to have one, in this election, it was hurting him.
I didn't ask you to check this out beforehand, so I don't know if you've got anything on this, but I wonder if Polly has anything to say about the outrageous foreign interference in our election campaign, which happened the other day. And I'm talking about Barack Obama's
Obama.
tweet.
Right.
Barack Obama came out and endorsed Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, and I know. I think we all, as Canadians, think of Charles de Gaulle and Vive le Québec Libre whenever somebody does that. We didn't check it. We probably should have. But, it doesn't seem to have hurt him, is what I would say. I mean, he was already kind of having a rough weekend after Thanksgiving. And
he is where he is.
Yeah, he is where he is. So it doesn't seem to have had an effect if I just look at the seats. But certainly, I think in Quebec, we all get this collective cringe whenever that happens.
Gotcha. Erin, I want to thank you so much for coming here every Friday, as you have throughout this election campaign. You've really given us so much great information to stew over. And we'll see whether you chose the right color of shirt Monday night when the results finally come in. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Steve.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.